yoga teacher and I'm a personal trainer. And today's class is a restorative yoga class. It's a gentle and restorative class. So there will be some gentle movements, but we won't be doing any standing poses. And then we'll also be resting in some supported yoga poses, restorative poses, using props to help the body feel more supported so that you can rest and relax. And I know a lot of us are maybe having a lot more time, downtime, if you will, at home, but maybe you're like me, you feel like you want to keep busy during those down times to stay productive. I know I've certainly gone through phases of wanting to be productive and then realizing that I need to find a balance between being productive and getting enough rest. It's been a pattern of mine over my life to maybe burn the candle at both ends, do too much, and then realize that what I have been doing is too much, and then striking that balance between resting but not, resting too much. So we definitely have periods of time where we feel most productive, and then at times where we can really savor our downtime and really focus on rest and relaxation, nurturing ourselves. The tendency when things get difficult in our lives might be to retreat. It might be to not look at what it is that is keeping us or wanting us to retreat rather. And as long as you're not escaping your reality, I think that's definitely fine to, maybe read a book or get into the garden. But with this practice, be okay with maybe recognizing how you're feeling. Allow your feelings to be what they are. So try not to deny your feelings. And you might even feel a sense of investigating a little bit. What is that feeling? Where is it coming from? And just really allow yourself to be nurtured and nurture yourself in this practice. So just like you would a little baby, or if you want to nurture a friend who is in need. So allowing this practice to be that for you, your refuge, your nurturance. So before we get started, you want to make sure that you have your props that you'll need for the practice. I'll recommend a couple of blankets, firm blankets. If you have yoga blankets, great. If not, then just get what you have. I have a bolster here. We'll use a couple of times in class. If you don't have a bolster, some thick bed pillows can work pretty well. And then 3 yoga blocks. And if you don't have 3 yoga blocks, you might use some thick books instead, some hardback books instead, or you could fold up some towels. You just want something that's firm, that's going to give you some support and height. Okay, so before we begin with the practice, let's just bring the hands together at the heart center as a way to begin the practice, as a way to arrive. You can close your eyes. Arriving into this practice today. And you might ask yourself, what is it that I want to receive from this time on my yoga mat? Allowing the answers to percolate, to arise. And for me, there's a feeling of craving, a deep desire to go within deep within to allow myself to really feel a sense of letting be rather than trying to escape or cover up what I'm feeling. So that's why I feel like I want to, practice today. That was my intention for my practice this morning. And then feel that you can seal your intention for your practice by pressing the hands together a little more and your thumbs into your heart center. And just take a deep breath in to breathe some life and focus into your intention. And a nice long exhale, bowing in towards your folded hands and in towards your inner essence, the deepest part of you, who you are. And releasing the hands when you're ready. You can release them to the thighs. Allow your eyes to gently come to an open. All right, let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of blanket folding. So I have one blanket here that I have unfolded or folded into a big rectangle. And I'm just gonna roll it so that it's nice and firm. Make sure there's no bumps in that roll. And so we'll just have a nice long skinny roll, and we'll use that for a pose here shortly. For now, I'm just going to set that off to the side, or maybe even behind the mat to come back to later. And then I have another blanket here. As you can see, it's folded for a pillow for support for the neck and the head. I'm just going to place that there at the back half of the mat. So you might want to have one block close by, or if you want your bolster, you can have it close by. And then make your way onto your back. Make sure your head and neck feel supported by the blanket. Start with your knees bent, your feet on the floor, about hip distance apart or slightly wider than your outer hips. And you might have your knees pointing straight up, or if it feels okay, you can let the thighs and the knees move in together. Resting your hands, palms down on the abdomen or backs of the hands to the floor. And inviting you now to close your eyes. And so as you are lying here, just noticing each part of your body that makes contact with the floor or the mat. As you scan your body with your inner awareness, and you might notice each part of your body that makes contact with the floor, how that contact feels, the sensation, the temperature, the texture. And be okay with naming what you feel. By noticing and naming it, it can help us to be more mindful and present of what is happening right now. Cultivating a sense of allowing to be what is. Not trying to cover it over in any way, not trying to push it away. And now beginning to shift your focus and your awareness to your breathing. Noticing the breath. What does the breath feel like as you inhale? What do you notice about the breath? Does the breath feel sticky, rigid, short, long, full? What do you notice about the out breath, each exhalation? Just allowing the breath to be as it is. Trying not to force the breath. The awareness of the breath is what anchors you to the present moment. Good. So we're going to add in some gentle movement here. So on your next inhalation, go ahead and bring your right knee in towards you. Grab hold of the right knee and lengthen your left leg long to the floor. And you're not trying to pull your right thigh in towards you. You're just gently holding the knee with your clasped hand. If that's uncomfortable, you can grab the back of your right thigh instead. And then go ahead and release the right leg down to the floor and bring the left thigh in towards your abdomen. Grab either the back of the thigh or the knee, clasping the fingers. The right leg long to the floor. And you're not yanking or pulling on the left leg. Make sure that the left leg feels easy. Good, and then lower the left foot to the floor. Both knees bent with the right foot also on the floor. And take your right leg up, straight up as if you're trying to touch the ceiling with your toes. Flex your ankle, pulling the toes now towards the shin. Use your hands on your right thigh to externally rotate the right thigh bone in the socket so the knee moves further away from your torso, and plant your outer right ankle onto your left thigh. We're going to keep this pretty mellow here. So if you feel like you want just a little bit more of sensation, you can take your block or your bolster and just place it underneath your left foot. And this is allowing us to maintain the natural arch or curvature in the low back. And so we'll pause here in this figure 4 shape and return to the awareness of the breath, observing the inhalations as they move in, observing the exhalations as they move out. And you'll take a couple of more breaths here. And then go ahead and release your right foot to the floor. If you were using a bolster or a block underneath the left foot, you might just move it to the center with your feet on the floor so your feet aren't on the block just yet. Just resettling into the pelvis, the sacrum. And then we'll take the other side, lifting the left leg up. You might notice at first the toes are a little bit pointed, so you can then flex that left ankle so the toes are pulling down towards the shin. Use your hands to externally rotate the left thigh bone at the socket. And then bend your left knee, anchor your outer left ankle to your right thigh. So keeping this pretty mellow today, you might keep your right foot on the floor, or you could use the block or bolster as a wedge or a prop underneath the right foot that brings the legs closer in towards the body a few more degrees. I'm just settling here into this shape for the next minute, closing the eyes and observing what's present. The breath, the sensations in the body. Maybe even feelings or thoughts. We're not trying to push any of that away. We're letting it be. Allowing and letting it be, just just as it is. And you might notice that with that sense of allowing and letting be, that the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings, that they shift and change. We'll just take another breath in here. And on your exhalation, you can release the left foot to the floor and move your block so that it's out of the way, so both feet are on the floor level to one another. Good. So next up, I'd like for you to move your blanket that's underneath your head. Just slide it off to the side so that you can have your head just neutral onto the floor. And we're going to go into a supported bridge. So I'm just going to use my foot to slide my block closer to me so that it's within the hand's reach. And with the arms outwards of the body, palms facing the sky, just going to do about 5 or 6 bridge roll-ups. So you can do that here with me, pressing into the feet. On the inhale, picking up the pelvis and lifting the spinal column 1 vertebra at a time, just to a height that's comfortable for you today. And on your exhalation, unraveling your spinal column 1 vertebra down at a time onto the mat until your sacrum is resting back down onto the floor. And we'll do that again, inhaling, lifting the hips, the low back, the mid back, the upper back. And on your exhale, unraveling slowly down 1 vertebra at a time. And we'll do that a few more rounds, moving at your own pace. There's no rush to get there. Allowing ourselves to be with the experience of what it feels like to move this body right here, right now. Now, the next time that you lift your hips and your spine, once you're at your comfortable maximal height, you can take the block or the bolster if you prefer and slide it underneath the back of the pelvis. The triangular shaped bone at the back of the pelvis, the sacrum, supported by the block. Make sure it's not underneath your low back, so it's centered underneath the pelvis. Once you've done that, you can turn your palms to face the sky again, backs of the hands and arms heavy to the floor. And then you might bring your shoulder blades just a little bit closer in towards the spine, not much, just a little, so you have a little bit more broadening across the chest and the collarbones through the front shoulders. Feeling just a little bit of engagement of the muscles between the shoulder blades. And you might notice that as you are in this shape, that The breath can come in more freely. Some people notice a stretch across the chest. Some people notice a stretch through the front ribs and abdomen if you're particularly tight there. One of the things or the qualities that I look for when I'm in a pose is how I'm holding my jaw. So I know that if I've been under a lot of stress and I've been internalizing a lot, that I'll clench my jaw. And there's a tightness that forms around the hinge of the jaw close to the ears. And sometimes that will manifest into a headache or jaw pain. So if you're like me, when you get stressed out, you tense your jaw, it can be really helpful to periodically just to allow yourself the time to notice the state and the quality of your jaw. Are you clenching your teeth? Are your teeth pressing together? And it can be helpful to purposefully open the mouth and purposefully make a yawn. And you can do that when you exhale here. Or when you inhale, whatever makes sense. And it actually made me yawn. And then when you close your mouth, don't let your teeth close. So keep some space between the upper and the lower teeth. And see if you can also begin to relax the tongue, the tip of the tongue, the middle tongue, the root of the tongue. Feeling some space around the tongue, around the roof of the mouth. Imagine that sense of space permeating throughout the jaw, the teeth, the eyes. Just as the inhalation is spacious, just as the sky is spacious, allow the jaw, the mouth, the face, the eyes to be spacious. You might even notice, what does the forehead feel like? And you can imagine that there's a mirror just right above you, and imagine, what does your face look like in that imaginary mirror? Is there a furrow across the forehead or the brow? Are there smile or frown lines around the eyes? Do your lips look like they're smiling or frowning or neutral? And then see if you can allow your face to become expressionless, smooth, ironing out the lines of expression on the face. Let's come out of this by lifting the hips. You have to squeeze your bum a little bit. Lift the hips, slide the block out, and unravel your spine down to the floor. And once your pelvis is level and even to the floor, just going to take the arms now out into a T shape with the palms up and walk your feet out about as wide as your yoga mat. I'm going to move any other props out of the way. Slide them out of the way with my feet so I have full range of motion to move my legs. Okay, take a breath in. As it moves in, you'll just create space with that breath, and on your exhale, let your knees and legs move over to the right. So you're keeping your feet the same distance apart as you move your legs to the right, and roll your head to the left. And then on your inhale, bring your head and your hips and knees back to center. And then on your exhale, move the legs to the left and roll your head to the right. And let's do that. Let's rinse and repeat there. Inhaling, head and hips to center. And exhale to the other side. It might feel good to go slow. It might feel good to go a little faster. Just moving at your own pace with the rhythm of your breath. And then we'll move one more time in each direction. And back to center. Good. And then we're going to roll to one side. So we're going to set up for our next restorative posture. So I'm starting to get a little bit chilly, so I am going to have a blanket so that I can cover up with. So I'll have that close by. Now the blanket that we set aside and rolled up earlier, you'll want to place that perpendicular to your mat. And you'll notice here that I have the top edge of where I started to roll facing where the head goes, so that if we need to make an adjustment, the size of the roll, we can do that. So I know that a lot of people have a hard time with the roll being this thick, but they do better with less height than the roll. Okay, so this is called water brook pose. So I am going to have a bolster ready to go underneath the knees. So knees are supported mainly near the thigh bone here. The feet can be on the floor. And we may have to adjust a little bit here and there. But when we go to lie down, you'll want this roll to be underneath your shoulder blades. So beneath the lower tips. So your shoulder blades are actually going to be on the other side of the roll, closer to where your head is. So just going to lower myself down onto my elbows at first, just to make sure that I have this at the right height. And it looks like I do. So, but if not, you may have to scoot
yourself down towards the direction of the bolster or back towards the direction of your head. Okay. So now when you lie down, if this just feels super uncomfortable, the height of the roll might be too much for you. Also, if your head is positioned so that your chin is higher than your forehead and you can't get your head to come back to a neutral position, that's an indication that the roll is too much for your body. Okay, so then you can push down into your elbows and sit back up again, and then get some of that roll out so the height isn't quite so much. It might just be a really super skinny roll. Okay, so you can see I took about half out here, and then I'm just going to lower myself back down. Find that the roll is underneath the shoulder blades, so my shoulder blades can actually be on the mat, and the head should be able to rest more neutral. And then you can adjust the bolster so that your feet are more comfortable on the floor. Now, once you have all of that, you might cover yourself up. Take your arms out into a T. And so your arms are going to be kind of parallel to the blanket roll, but on top rather than below. Okay. All right, so in the water brook pose, just going to lie here with the heart space open, closing your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. And we'll stay here for a couple of minutes. Observing the breath. Can you feel as if the breath can nurture you? Inviting the breath to lengthen a little bit. And then you can bend your knees and hips a little bit more and push that bolster away from you. And roll to your side, whichever side makes most sense. And then push yourself up, coming into a seated position for just a couple of breaths. You might feel that there's some blood flowing through your upper back to where the roll was. Okay, so we are done with that roll that we used. And so you can just go ahead and unroll it. You can use whichever blanket you would like here. We're going to place the blanket opened up into this size in the middle of the mat. And so I'm just going to get rid of one of them. I'll use my blue one here. The other blanket, I'm just going to shift that out of the way. And we're going to come into a tabletop position so that the hands are under the shoulders, the knees are beneath the hips for cat and cow. So it'll feel good to move your spine after being in that back bend earlier. So as you inhale, you can start to lift your tailbone, put more of a curve in your low back, and then lengthen from your navel through your chest to lift the heart, the very top of the sternum, the chin lifts. And then as you exhale, start to round your low back, tailbone down, lift your mid back, your upper back towards the sky, and bring your chin in towards your chest, let your head hang. Inhaling, we'll repeat that. Cow pose, tailbone lifts. Lengthen from your navel all the way up through your chest and chin. Exhale, cat pose. Push the floor away from you as you round your whole back, your back. We'll do that a few more times. Cow, then cat. And then bring yourself onto your belly. You can lower your elbows down first and then walk your legs back so that your pelvis is supported by the blanket that you have there. And coming onto your elbows so that the elbows are under the shoulders. So if this is uncomfortable for you in any way, you can bring your elbows forward and see if that helps. Your arms are feeling a little bit tired and you want some support, you can grab your bolster and place underneath your chest, your rib cage area, resting the elbows to the floor and maybe taking your hands together, interlacing them and resting the forehead down. So even if you have your elbows under the shoulders on the mat, you could take your hands together and interlace. I'm just resting here. Can you feel a sense that you could breathe more into your upper back, your upper lungs below the shoulder blades, all the way up to the tops of the shoulder blades. Your last breath here, whichever variation you're in. If you're using a bolster, go ahead and scoot that out to the side off of your mat. Make pillows with your hands, stacking one on top of the other. Turn your head so that you're looking towards the direction of your left elbow. Your right cheek is resting on the top hand. And then shift your weight over into your right hip and flex at your left hip and your left knee so that your left knee is below the height of your pelvis. And the inner edge of your left foot is on the floor. The inner knee, the inner thigh is facing the floor. And then once you kind of get settled into the shape where you can feel like you can be fidget free, and we'll pause here, just focus on the breath. Notice where the breath feels most obvious. Notice if you can feel the subtlety of the breath moving any of your bones with the inhalations, and the breath moving the bones with the exhalations. Good, and then we'll make our way back slowly so that we're resting with both legs straight. Rest your forehead on your top hand, settling here into more of a symmetrical position. And then we'll take the other side. So you roll a little bit to your left hip. Turn your head so that your left cheek is resting on your top hand. Flexing your right hip. Slide your right knee out to the right. So the knee is below the height of the pelvis. Inner edge of the right foot is on the floor. And just kind of settling in here so that you can rest and become fidget free. Diving a little bit deeper into the breath and allowing the breath to take you deeper into stillness. Noticing the places that feel very still and anchored, and noticing the places where there's subtle movement from the breath. And just taking another breath here. Coming back into resting on your belly with the legs straight, forehead to the top hand. And go ahead and bring your hands, palms down underneath your shoulders. Push yourself up into a tabletop. And you might have your hands a little more forward of the shoulders, the hips above the knees, and we'll make our way into downward facing dog pose. So fingers pointing straight ahead, push strongly into your hands, curl the toes under and lift the knees and the hips up and back to downward dog. So to allow your spine to decompress here, you can bend your knees a little bit, about 10-15 degrees. Push through the hands to lift the pelvis, the sit bones up. So you're making an inverted V shape. And then just imagine or maybe even feel that the neck can lengthen away from the pelvis. The neck and the head can decompress. It's okay if your arms are feeling tired to lower the knees down at any time. Remember, it's not ever about a competition at all in our yoga practice. So we're going to listen to the body. Lower the knees down. I know people that'll suffer in silence in a pose because they want to impress the teacher
or the person next to them. Okay, so from here we're going to come into a seated position, and the blanket that we had underneath the knees, just going to go ahead and come off of that and fold that blanket a couple of times. So I've got this nice pillow here. So in this posture, for the purpose of a demonstration for you guys, I'm going to be your mirror. So we're going to start off with the right knee bent, the right thigh rotated outwards. Now, you want to make sure you're sitting to the front edge of your blanket so that your pelvis can anteriorly tilt, so you're not rounding your back here. Okay. And if for some reason this right knee is hovered quite a bit above the floor, there's two things you can do. A, you can sit up on more height, so you can grab a blanket and sit up on two blankets, and that'll help that knee to go closer. Or you can use a block or a blanket to support that outer knee. You don't want it to be hanging in space. Now you'll notice that the left leg is out, so that there's about 90 degrees of angle between the two inner thighs. So the left leg is not straight ahead, it's out to the side. Okay. Now I'm going to use my bolster here by placing the bolster either on the second height setting or the first height setting, depending upon my flexibility, or depending upon your flexibility is where you'll place the bolster. Okay. So I've got it close in towards my left inner thigh, and then I'm just going to place my elbow down on the bolster, the left elbow down onto the bolster, and use my hand, my left hand, to support my left cheek, just like that. And so then my right hand is going to rest onto the right thigh, and I'm going to take an open twist. So I'm going to twist my torso just a little bit towards the right. And this might be where I stay here. I'm getting a little bit of a stretch on the left inner thigh. Or if you'd like, you can take the top arm up towards the ceiling and take that top hand, the right hand, to the back of the head, and let the elbow come in towards the direction of the nose, creating a little bit of sensation on the right side of the body now. I'm just pausing here for about a minute. If there's any pain in that top arm or shoulder, you can always take that hand back down to the right thigh. Come out of the pose, release that top hand to the thigh, and come all the way back up to an upright torso. And then we'll switch our props around for the other side. So I'm going to extend that right leg out, reposition sit bones if needed, and we're going to bend that left knee and rotate the left thigh out. I'm already feeling some sensation of stretch, just very gentle in the inner thighs, the adductors. So I know I'm going to keep this pretty mellow today. Taking the bolster to the inside of the right leg. And remember, if you need to support your left knee, if it's hovering, you can put something underneath that knee. Okay, so I'm going to hinge a bit from that right hip and bring the right elbow to the bolster wherever it reaches. Notice if the bolster is real low and you're having to really reach for that lowest part, it can be uncomfortable. So I like to bring it up to me. And then I'm just going to rest my right cheek into my right hand and take an open twist. So rotating the torso to the left a little bit. And I might rest the left hand onto the thigh. You might do that as well. Or you can reach the left arm up and rest that left hand to the back of the head, letting the elbow move in towards the direction of the face. And just pausing here, breathing. Another breath here. Releasing that top arm up and then down. Sitting upright. Finding that the two legs are symmetrical now. Going to set up for a reclined bound angle. So this is where the 3 blocks will come into play. So I'm just going to grab all 3 of them here. Okay. So you're going to place 1 block at the back end of your mat. So if you don't have that 3rd block, you can use one of your blankets, fold it into a square to give yourself some height so that your bolster can be at an angle, you see? Okay. And then from there, so I'm going to substitute my block back in. From there, you'll take your other 2 blocks and just place them on either side of your mat, closer to the bolster. And then I'm going to use my blanket for a pillow. So that's going to be folded up just like we've been using it to sit on or as a pillow. And that's going to go at the back end of the bolster. I have a second blanket to cover myself. I'm just going to scoot so that my bottom is pretty close to the bolster. There's just a little bit of space between the bolster and my sacrum. I have a pretty big curve in my low back, so I don't go all the way up next to the bolster because I already have a pretty good curve there. So I'm just going to lower myself down and then make any little adjustments so that my body feels well and supported. You know, I mentioned I have a big curve in my low back, so for
some of you who have an excess curve, you might notice that you're really arched or tilted here. The ribs are flaring. So if that's you, you might, with your knees bent, feet on the floor, pick up your hips kind of like you're going into bridge, lengthen your low back, and then with that length, set your sacrum down to the floor. So you can see how it's more of a neutral position now instead of this big back bend. Okay, so the feet are going to come together and the knees will come apart. So I have the soles of the feet together, knees apart. And I'm going to use props to support my outer thighs because I don't want to be hanging out in these hips here. Okay, so you can either have the blocks closer in towards the pelvis or you can have them out towards the knees depending upon what you need. And one of my yoga students showed me this really great trick a couple of years ago. If you're using a block underneath your outer thighs, if you tilt the block so that the flat edge of the block is against the thighs, then there'll be less of that edge pressing into the flesh of your thighs. So it's a little more comfortable. So you might give that a try. And if you do it at the right angle, it will stay still. It's pretty cool. And I'm just going to cover my torso with a blanket. There's something about having that extra bit of warmth that helps you to relax, and also the weight of the blanket helps you to relax. Okay, so make any adjustments now so that you feel comfortable, you're able to settle. So we're going to stay in this posture for about 5 to 8 minutes. You just really allow yourself to soften, to let go any tension wherever you feel it. Using your mind's eye to scan the body for any held tension, and politely requesting those areas that you're holding, where you're feeling tension, to start to loosen up and release with each subsequent breath, letting go. Letting go with this breath as well. And with this breath too. A little more with each breath. make our way out of this shape. You can grab the blocks and move them to the sides, and use your hands if you'd like to close your knees so that your feet are flat to the floor and knees are pointing up. And then we have time here for our final relaxation. So I'd like for you to get comfortable onto your back without the bolster underneath your back, unless you're just really loving that. You just take some time to move that bolster. You might place it underneath your knees, and then I like to use a block underneath each heel. You might find that that's comfortable as well for the back. And then make sure your head is supported and that you are comfortable. You have some warmth with maybe your jacket and some socks or an extra blanket. And just wiggling around to make sure that you are fully able to settle here so that you can become as still as possible. Closing your eyes. And let's bring awareness to the breath. Just noticing again the fluidity of the breath as it flows in and out of the body. Like to return to your intention that you placed at the beginning of class, you may bring your awareness to that intention, or perhaps you would like to practice gratitude, thinking of one of your many blessings, something that you are truly grateful for in your life. Whatever you're gravitating towards, whether it's your intention or your gratitude, you might say that in your mind 3 times. I am grateful for, or my intention is. And just breathing that intention or that gratitude, that blessing into your mind and your heart and your body, feeling that the breath can give it some life. And that intention, that gratitude can take you deeper into source, into your innermost essence of who you are. So as you align with that source, or the innermost essence of who you are, we'll journey throughout the body here. So you can imagine that as each body part is named, that area is being illumined, highlighted with a healing energy, healing energetic flow, with luminosity, with the glowing of the sun on sand or sparkling diamonds. And so we'll begin today by
bringing awareness to the crown of the head, crown of the head, luminous and bright and sparkling. And that luminosity traveling down to the forehead, to the space between the eyebrows, the third eye center, sparkling, filled with a healing awareness, healing light. Feeling that healing light entering into the third eye center. And the awareness of that light traveling down the face and to the throat chakra, the throat center. Feeling a penetration of that healing light through the throat center. Sparkling like diamonds. Or sparkling sand and sun. And that luminosity, that healing light, traveling down from the third eye to the throat chakra and down to the heart center. Feeling that the heart center is highlighted, open and spacious. That there's healing at the heart center, a lightness, a luminosity. It's your own inner light. And that light travels down now to the solar plexus, the space between the heart and the navel, where your own personal power resides. Feeling that that area is energized. And the awareness traveling down now from the solar plexus to the navel. Feeling that the navel is shimmering, bright and luminous. And then awareness traveling down from the navel, down to the pelvic floor, the sacrum, and the whole pelvic region. Feeling that spark of creativity and also the spark of being settled and rooted, becoming enlivened. That energy traveling down to the legs, the feet. And then bringing the awareness back up to the third eye center. And imagining now that as you breathe in, that you can breathe in the light from the third eye center, and then it travels all the way down to the pelvis. And when you breathe out, you're breathing back up from the pelvis, all the way out through the third eye center. Following the trajectory, that path, breathing in from third eye center to the pelvis, breathing out from pelvis through the third eye center. And as you're breathing in, you might hear the sound of so as the breath enters the body, travels third eye center to pelvis. And when you breathe out, you might hear the sound hum. As you breathe out, hum traveling from the pelvis all the way out the third eye center. Breathing in the sound so. Breathing out the sound hum. And if you listen, you can hear the sound of so and hum at the back of the throat. The sound so, hum, is I am that. I am that I am. I am. I am that. I am that I am. Feeling yourself merging with so hum. I am that I am. And picturing yourself as I am that I am that I am, and how that fits into the universe. Who are you? Who am I? I am that I am. I am that. I am. I. And from that recognition, you can let go of the imagery of breathing through the third eye and start to really feel the essence of your physical body merging with your soul, your inner essence. And as you feel that marriage, that merging, and start to wiggle the fingers and the toes a little bit. Move your hands and your feet, your arms and your legs. Bring your knees in towards your chest, hug your knees in with your hands gently, and rock side to side a few times. And then roll to your right side. And push yourself up when you're ready to come into a comfortable seat, sitting on a pillow, bolster, blanket, whatever feels more comfortable, so that your spine can be naturally long and tall and your two sit bones can be settled into the cushion or the floor. And once you're seated, bring your hands together at your heart center and bow your head in towards your heart so you can feel the union, the uniting quality of your physical body, your mental, emotional body, your spiritual body, all merging as one in the now. So it is through the recognition of the self, through the self, where when we feel that union, that we can love and accept ourselves just as we are. not try to push it away, not try to cover it over. To be with ourselves just as we are. I want to thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you'll join me again. Namaste.